Haha, okay, so the recording is officially beginning. All right, and I'm Mike Oklevich. I'm going to venture to guess I've probably at least met, even from a distance, everyone here. I've done the training around the country. The thing I'm really excited about is having this group come together, because I think, as you've heard in any of the trainings, we present what we think we know, and then we find out what we don't know. And most of what I'm going to share here, we've learned from feedback from you and improving upon it. So I'm going to echo what Matt and Scott said: interaction, stop us, whatever. This is really more of a peer group discussion is the goal here. So what we're going to go through, I want to highlight, there's really three basic setups when we go after stair towers. So I'm going to go through the first one. I'm calling a hybrid. That's when we're scaffolding inside and out. You've probably heard the mantra, and we've been out there saying that we were excited when we started learning that we can attack stair towers this way. And I'm going to have Rod Strouse actively share his experience on that one. And then the second one was the outside the shaft approach, where we're just scaffolding. I'll do some examples, some open discussion there. And then our third one is really something that we started early on, was putting the mules right up on the mast towers. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then toward the end, I want to spend a little time talking about a rail system. I mean, you've probably heard rumbling about that, and I just want to give you an update of where that is these days. And then we'll talk briefly about winter enclosures, and that'll lead into probably a future training that we'll do down the road. Are we good? You're good. You're good? Okay. I'm going through. Okay, so this first concept here is this hybrid scaffold concept. And right at the top, we're going to have Rod do some sharing here. And I have to say that we bounced around this crazy idea, and we were doing a training, and Rod said, that doesn't sound so crazy. And he actually went after it and did it. And the basic concept here is we load two mules on the center on the scaffold and then wrap the outside. Pros and cons, I'll go through these quickly, and then I want to turn it over to Rod, is allows for a lean crew, easy stocking, finishing the walls. This was something that we learned really from Berich. We weren't anticipating. He said, when we get up to the top and then we start the rider back down, we do all our cleanup work. So when we're done, we're done. And then it's kind of evolved into, well, you don't have to just leave the mules on the inside. There were some adaptations that Rod, and I think we've seen some others do. Trade-offs, of course, were extra scaffolding, the investment in a crane to get the unit out. So with that, Rod, I'd really appreciate if you tell us, where your head was at and where you really saw this going, and where you've seen it evolve over the last several months.
All righty. Our philosophy is the easier you can make it, the more productive you're going to be. So my boss is willing to hire a crane to pull it out and everything, because labor's more expensive than the crane if you're making your production and beating it. What I did like about putting the mules in the center is most of your stairwell shafts are 20 foot across plus. And the dang trouble is, if you don't put them in the center, then you got to use 3 to 4 mules to hit all the corners and everything. When you can put them in the center, you've hit everything. And then the second is, you got all kinds of landing room. You got a sidewalk in the sky. You're not fighting anything if you land the mules there. So let's just say you put 2 mules on each side on the outside, then you've limited your landing space, and people are tripping over, and you're trying to land mud and everything. And this for us works great. The guys feel, room to move and everything. And generally, I usually put 2 bricklayers on each end and throw a hot carrier in the center to feed them. And it works pretty dang good. On this scenario, that is with a 32-inch block as well. I mean,
Right.
once you top it out, you bring that scaffold down on the inside and you can do all your scraping, tuck pointing and everything. And you don't have to worry about going up stairs and trying to get a ladder up a stair to start scraping or, punch the out. Once you're down, you're done. And same thing on the outside. You brought both scaffolds down, your punch list and everything, in theory, should be done.
Yeah, Rod, one of the things I remember early on, and I'm curious what other people have thought here, is we always considered, well, we'd put a P-series in the middle. And you were pretty insistent that you wanted to use an M2 standard motor unit. What was the rationale there?
Well, I like the M2. It's more solid, first of all. If you put a P unit, it's a little bit more squirrely. And my philosophy is if you look in that picture, the M series, it pretty much takes up that shaft. So you don't have really as much safety or issues or anything. And then also on the M series, you can free span 32 feet before you got to tie it in. If you're doing a P series, you're pushing it at 18 feet. You're probably going to tie in sooner than that just because of the flex and the balancing act you're going to be doing on a P series.
Okay. All right. The other thing, and is if you look in here, you decided you wanted to use the ground bases rather than tying in with the fork tubes.
Yes. Now, I like doing it that way. It's so quick to move those around. So say if you're at your grout and you didn't order your concrete, you got 4 hours to burn, you can hook those instantly. We put a tie down strap on them. You can just pop them, put them on the ground and get the crew going in 5 minutes at the most. It's very simple to move them, easy setup, easy everything.
Interesting.
I mean, we're using that right now and we're running on 2 different scaffolds. And when we top out one, while the crew's moving over to the other scaffold, I can get them set on the scaffold and up and running before they're waiting.
Rod, do you use that ground base even when you have people on the scaffold with the mules? So in this case, you had a dedicated scaffold with the mules on there, so you didn't have to worry about kind of tripping or interference with pushing, mud tubs around, anything like that. What about when the mules are on the scaffold?
On the mules, we're taking the basis the long way. In this picture you're seeing now, it's the opposite. But generally, we're just putting that mule to the front, but putting the long ways running down the hydro. So it keeps plenty of space back there. And then we're taking just like a 2-inch truck tie down strap and securing them at the bottom. So, I mean, you can run wheeled mud tubs behind them and everything. What I like about it is the simplicity of moving them. It just makes it so simple.
You ever run into capacity issues?
Not at this point, no. Right now I'm running 2 hydros, a 14-foot cantilever, and a 10-foot cantilever, and running 56 feet in between. And I've got the 4 mules sitting on it right now, and then stocked with block. But keep in mind, this is all for hydro, and there are different. I don't know if all of them are using hydro or different forms of hydro or conventional scaffolding or what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And are you still, as far as the outriggers, are you extending the outriggers or keeping them in?
I'm keeping them in. We're using the feet to level it up so the arms don't swing. And then I'm taking 2 tie down straps and just tying them down right to the scaffold. Just a ratchet strap.
Okay. All right. I'm curious, so what are some of the other folks doing that have gone after stair towers? I know last I knew, Myron Construction, you were using the fork pockets and straps and all the applications. Is that still the case?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And we've done it very similar to the way that it shows right now too. We've done it both ways. We've actually set a hydro in the middle of a stair shaft once and put the mules on it that way too. It took up more equipment, but it was also during winter, so winter enclosures. It worked very well.
Yeah.
So you did what's, okay, so are you still in the car, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the picture I have up now is exactly that. So you had a motor unit in the center of the shaft, mules there, and then you wrapped the outside just for your men and materials?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And that's the picture that we have up here. That's, what I'm calling the hybrid method.
Yep. And that's what we've done plenty of times.
Okay.
And then
Did you see-
also we have found a way to put a P-series unit in like a 8x8 elevator shaft too. We worked with Hydra on that. We can get the meal loaded on that for a smaller shaft, like an elevator shaft.
So when you do that, Rod, so I assume you're putting the mule to one side and then just counterbalancing it on the other?
Exactly. Yeah, we've worked through Hydro on it and got their sign-offs on it and everything.
Okay. So you're still working, do you still have your materials and men on the outside?
Yes, you're not going to put anything on the inside. It's specifically going to be a P3 with a mule.
Okay. All right.
And in that case, you've got one mule up there. And
Elevator shaft.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then how many masons are you typically running on that?
Honestly, that would probably be 2 at the most. Generally, it's almost just a mason and an apprentice and a hot carrier. But keep in mind, this is also a 32-inch block.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 3-man crew to do that.
Yeah. I mean, right now, we're doing a car dealership and we're doing a split face 8-inch, but they don't make them in 32. So I'm running the 4 mules. And basically with the 32s, in an average day, we're weighing the equivalent of 280 units per man a day.
Wow.
And what would you have expected without the mules?
Right now, we're doing that right now because we got the split face 8s. And I think we're running about 180. But it's been raining here and we just got started. So that's a guesstimated count. I can't tell you that exactly. Here in a week, I could answer that a lot more firmly.
So that's a split face 8 versus an 8/832.
Yes. And then also they're 8-foot rebar. No, they're 7.5-foot rebar. So we're having to reach over, which the mules are awesome for that.
Okay. I'm gonna put Scott on the hot seat here because he had a crazy idea the other day that I kind of liked. And I'll just bounce this out here. When we get to the top, we talk about taking this out with a crane.
Mm-hmm.
How crazy would it be to, if these units were on a wheel cart, could you wheel them over the top onto the outside scaffold?
I wouldn't want to do it. Honestly, I've got a crane coming no matter what because I've got a hydro inside.
Yeah,
You know,
there are
it's crazy.
applications.
What's that?
No, I said there are applications where they don't want to pull a crane in.
Well, yeah, in the case of an M series in the inside, you got to pull it out with a crane. That makes sense.
No, but if he had a P series.
If you had a P series in there. And
P series, I mean, yes, I mean, the heaviest part of that unit is the base on that. I can't believe how heavy those bases are on the mules. You know, it's just, I don't know what you would get to span that. You'd have to have a monster plate to support that.
Okay. Well, anyway, crazy ideas sometimes become a reality. That's just thought I'd throw that one out there.
Well,
Is there any other?
It also depends on how high that shaft is. Because, you know, if you're only going like 30 feet, You could also take your telehandler and pull them out that way, and we've done it that way out of the center, but it just depends on the height of that shaft.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay. All right. And then this next one I just wanted to talk about, because I think this one also came from one of your jobs, Rod, if I'm not mistaken, is the idea of expanding this. If you have extra people, you can always put a mule on the outside, which when I first saw this, it looked like a waste. But talk a little bit about that, because you convinced me that this made sense.
Well, it just gives you flexibility. I mean, if you're bouncing around crews and stuff, you know, you can always keep your two on the inside. And if you get more crews, then you can put one on the outside. You know, it's just, it keeps it simple. You know, the premium thing on masonry is when you start getting in the air is trying to get enough room to do your job, land material, and just, you know, without fighting everything. Because the more room your masons feel like they have, the more productive they're going to be. The more tight space and crammed you get them, they start getting cranky and you start not being happy, and the production goes down.
Yeah. If you can ever come up with a whole crew of happy masons, I'm going to film that, and that's going to be on every television network across the country.
You come on out here to Colorado, I'll show you, and everybody is just happy up here.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. They are. I mean,
I know.
Well, I've got pretty much two masons on the job that are 60 years old, and they're going home not even hurting. And I mean, they're just loving it. You know, they don't want to lay block by hand because they're heavy. The split face.
That's right. You still have Chuck out there laying?
No, he actually retired.
Okay. All right.
So I'm curious, from some of the other companies on the call here, I'm thinking, as I'm looking at the company names, it's predominantly Hydromobile represented, but is there anybody using another manufacturer besides Hydromobile on here? And I guess the second question is, are you wrapping the outside or tackling it from the center, or what are you doing currently with the scaffold setups you do have?
Well, we know Myron's wrapping, doing a little bit inside.
No, quite honestly, any stair shaft I'll do is we're going to put the one in the center. I mean, that's not even you don't even have to think about it. I mean, my boss has signed off on it, and he can see the production on it.
Okay. And I think that's another, you mentioned the production. I know we were out there talking to the GC on this particular project, and the increase in productivity they saw independently. They were out there watching you like a hawk.
Yeah.
And they were counting your lifts, and they figured it was somewhere between 20 to 30% quicker that thing went up.
Yeah.
With the smaller crews. So that was good validation of what you're doing.
Yeah. You know, the dang trouble is on those shafts, you don't want to run a big crew. You chew up so fast with it. You know, you want to keep more lean than you do on the heavy side.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. There are going to be situations where you may have to do everything outside. You know, stairs can be in there. There's reasons that comes up. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about that. So we've got the outside scaffold layouts. This is what we came out of the chute with. Most folks were doing that. It typically requires 4 mules to reach all the sections. And the reason for that, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. If you look at the layout on these, it looks like you'd be able to install 2 mules kitty corner, or even put 3 up there and cover it. Well, what inevitably happens is there's dead zones we find where you just can't lay it manually. And I'm curious if anybody has tried that, could challenge what I'm saying here. To really effectively cover these stairways, it generally takes 4 mules.
That's why I like putting the one in the center, but I mean, if you can, because it puts it
Okay.
down to 2 mules and you don't have as much going on up there.
Okay. And then this was a job that folks that wanted to talk about this one. They were limited to, they have 6 mules on the project, and this illustrates what I'm talking about. They went at this with a mule on either side, had the dead corners. The thing that pops out here is obviously they knew that they could have used 4 on that stair shaft, but they were taking their extra mules and sending them down on the straight wall. So what that allowed them to do is stretch their crew out, and they were more productive overall. But the result was they ended up having to lay some of these blocks manually, and I'm sure you've run into that. So this was a 32-inch block job, and I'm not sure if they I believe they ended up having to mix the block on that scaffold. You had a choice. You're either going to manually lay to 32s or bring up 16s and build the corners.
What I'm gathering the preferred method is to put the
Keep them in
the center.
Keep them inside where you can.
And if you're running a steel or something in the middle of it.
Right. Okay. So then this last section here is mounting them on mast towers. I know when we go through the training, I mentioned that there are mast adapters. We've had situations where this was the only option. And again, I'd love to hear feedback on this. We were doing a job, actually this one down in the lower left is a job that's being done in Colorado, and they were unable to get anything on the outside. So they had to have their men, materials, everything on the inside, and that really forced the issue of mounting these up on masts. So I just wanted to stress that is an option if you do it. In this particular case, they had full access to a crane. In fact, that's all they had was a crane. They weren't able to even get a telehandle there. But there are adapters for both hydromobile and easy scaffold that'll allow you to mount right to it. I've got the pros and cons.
How far
Go
can you
ahead.
put? How far can you put the mule in the air before you run out of cable?
Well, we have our rope extensions are 10 foot. We have 10 foot, 6 foot, and 2.5 foot rope extensions, and they can be daisy chained.
Okay.
But typically what'll happen is you're going to get 11 feet of travel with your cable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put a 10-foot extension on there, that's going to give you a reach of about 21 feet.
Okay.
Gripper's going to come up to the top of the mast, or the bottom of the fork tubes, if you want to think of it that way. And you're going to get 21 feet of reach. And then as you come up 10 feet, you pull the rope extension out.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes the management, is how many towers are you going to put in.
Yeah.
Now, I think the limitations here are obvious. The reason they wanted them up on the tower is you would end up with limited space on the deck if you tried to do everything internally.
Right.
The other thing to consider in that scenario, if you go back real quick, is, the nice thing is the mule's out of your way, but there are definitely some disadvantages. You have the power cord you got to deal with and manage, make
That's
sure
right.
it doesn't get wrapped and caught and torn. So it just requires a little bit of planning and forethought. And then obviously you lose some of the wins when you got to use a crane to set that mule off to the side but I think that there's some, as you mentioned, there's some additional things coming on easy, and there's other ways to potentially tackle that if this, on how to move that mule without needing a crane.
That's right.
That are in the works that I think will help facilitate this method further in the future if that's advantageous.
Yep. And to Scott's point, I've got the bullet there, talks about easy scaffold there. Clint is in the process of developing a method that you can actually load the towers in underneath the mule. So it's essentially a stand. Think of it as a mule stand that would attach. But again, that's going to be limited to an easy scaffold platform.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if you have any issues with that mule, you pretty much have to fly it down if you have to get into the
well, actually what they ended up doing in this case, and it was remarkable, is they tie off and go up and did what they had to do.
yeah.
So they were able to go up the towers and
Okay.
tie off with the appropriate fall protection, of course.
Right.
And it's just lift the panel and service it. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is we asked Fraco mass climbers. Fraco scaffolding has a more limited weight capacity, but they do have approved setups that are limited. But for stair tower applications, these are two of the examples that they've approved you can do. So it allows you to either put 2 mules in the center or 4 mules around the outside, tie it in, and it works nicely. With some of the longer runs, there's other issues about where the mules could be placed on a platform. But for stair towers, it seems like this method, this will work. So I just wanted to put that out there. If there's any Fraco users, and this all hinges on contacting the Fraco representatives, getting the drawings. I pulled these. I've got pictures that we can, or the actual drawings we can share, but the best thing to do is go right to your Fraco rep. They have quick access to what's been approved, and if it varies, they're going to have to sign off on it. Okay, next thing, rail systems. You've probably heard talk of this, and I can tell you, Tony Avila out in Arizona started doing this. I believe it was, what, 3 years ago? Maybe 4 at this point. Yeah. He was very early. He started putting a mule up on a rail. What this allows you to do is you can take a mule and go along a rail 20 feet. So you essentially can cover 20 foot. So you can see some of these pictures here. He's able to go after a stairway with a single mule, riding the the rail down one side. Because again, you get a 12-foot reach with that arm, and the rail is toward the front wall, and you're able to just eke out and reach across the unit. And the other thing to keep in mind is these do work with their crank up system as well. It doesn't have to be the easy scaffold mass climber.
And to be clear, Easy has approved. They've developed their own version now, too.
That's right.
Available.
That's what I had. Easy has it. They've developed their own system with crank up or the mass climbing platform. And their version is actually being tested, I think, either as we speak or next week in Arizona. So that is not a 6-month project. That is on the short-term horizon. Last one was winter enclosures, and I know I already heard the gentleman there from Myron mention this. If the mules are in the center, it seems like that would make the winter enclosure a little simpler. But who was that was on here? Was it Brian? Brian, if you're still on the line, I'd appreciate hearing your comment on that. Did this save, you were using hydros, did it mean the enclosure got simplified? You didn't have to build it out as much if you kept the mules in the center?
Yeah, that, and we didn't have to, build the enclosure any higher on the outside scaffold. Just keep that above the internal scaffolding that was in the middle of the shaft. You know,
So
so
you
we
were
were
able-
still able to use, but we didn't have to have a great big huge tent built up above the hydros to accommodate the swing of the arm.
Awesome. So you didn't have to use extensions, you were able to use their standard, winter enclosure?
Yes, doing the stairwell, we had the mule on a hydro in the middle of the shaft.
Yeah.
We also did another stairwell, and we put the mules on the outside on the hydros, and then we did make extensions to raise up the enclosure so the mule could still sit in there and swing properly.
Yeah, that's what I remember seeing. We're definitely gonna wanna do another, similar event like this with, about winter enclosures. And really focus on that, because I know, your region, I was talking to Rod about this earlier, Wisconsin has really kind of led the charge in that area. You
I'll tell
love
you what.
winter.
I like his idea about that one in the center, because that makes it simple.
Yeah,
It's
it's
your regular winter brackets, and you just keep it down in that center mule. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that worked really well, but we had some firewalls that we were using it on and such, and so we just tried to explore with it a little bit and see what kind of ideas we could come up with to get that winter enclosure taller. If we did not have that capability or the ability to put something on the inside. I mean, it worked perfect for staff. And then you got to get with hydro too, and they make you add additional bracing on your tie-ins and everything, because you got that extended 4 foot of enclosure above what they normally have on it.
Well, with the winter enclosure, you're tying in every 10 foot anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But they make you do it a little bit more.
Oh,
They
do
made
they?
us do it. Yeah, with the extra weight that we had up on top of the hydro itself,
Mhm.
not the mule, but with all the brackets we made to get that 4 foot higher to clear everything.
Right.
They approved it, but we had to tie in a little bit extra.
So that's what you have to do, is extend them 4 feet higher to make it work.
Approximately 4 foot. Yeah, I think we explored a lot of different things, but we made our own little tubes and brackets that tied right into the hydro enclosure unit. And I believe 39 inches, I believe, is what it amounted to.
Okay.
Okay,
But
good.
it worked. It definitely worked.
Oh, yeah. It looked like it worked pretty good.
So just to clarify on that, so you said that, because you were saying that you were trying a few different things. So if you do a winter enclosure, or if you do a stair tower, let's say coming up in the future with a winter enclosure around it, and you have access to the outside and the inside, do you still need to elevate it that extra distance, or you can just run it the standard winter enclosures with the mule on the hydros on the inside without needing to do that?
Yeah, you don't need to do anything extra if you put the mule on the inside of the shaft.
Got it.
It works real slick, actually. All you got to do is just make sure, obviously, the outside hydro stays, a foot above the rest of it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I understand. Yep.
Yeah, because there's really, just for clarity, if it didn't, maybe this is really obvious, is when you had to adapt those enclosures, it was height, and you also had to bump them out to accommodate the power pack swinging. Where if the mules are on the inside, you don't have to worry any of that. You're just worrying about the height.
Correct. I mean, when the mule's on the inside, we didn't have to worry about anything. We just put the regular closure and the regular enclosure brackets, and then when it was on the outside, the only thing we really had to worry about was height. We just had to clear the top of that mule.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once we got up high enough, everything worked just like if, the enclosure weren't even there. We just had to get up high enough. That was the struggle, trying to figure that out.
Okay. I remember seeing some where you had to bump it out, but that's probably dependent on where you positioned it on the hydro, if they were shifted. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember any situation where we had to bump it out because I don't think we did, because top winter enclosure brackets with hydro, they got that extra outrigger that can go out a little further to
Right.
drop your plastic the back side of the wall. So maybe that's what you were seeing. But we didn't make
Yeah.
anything special. We didn't make anything special for the winter enclosures other than the brackets that fit in the pockets to extend
Got
it
it.
up for.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any other comments? Like I said, I think winter enclosure, that's one we're gonna circle back. That'll be one of the topics. We'll probably wait, hopefully, and try to enjoy some summer before we talk about winter enclosures.
Yeah, it definitely gets a little tricky too when you get up high enough where your telehandler forklifts don't reach and you're doing everything with a crane. Then you
Yeah.
gotta make doors in the roof system as well to drop your block down, your 32-inch block down, and grouting and everything else. It gets to be a little bit of a challenge.
Have
You
you
know,
ever
'cause then-
used the
I'm sorry, go.
winch units on those?
Yes, we have.
How do you like them?
I think they're slow.
You know, I did it was a 160-story building, and that was the first time I ever ran with the winches, and I was rather impressed with them. I never had any downtime with my crew.
I wish I had that luck. It seems like I was always running out of material waiting on them things.
You had the 2-speed winch on it, right?
Yes, sir.
Huh, I'll be darned.
Yep, and I just tried them again a couple weeks ago on the P series. We had a wall inside of a building that went up 40 foot, and
Yeah.
real hard to get big equipment in and around that wall. And we used them again, and I don't know, I just wasn't having much luck with them.
I'll be darned. Huh. That's just curious.
Yeah, no, I mean they do their job. They do good, but I definitely can see the difference production wise when I don't have to use them compared to when I have to use them.
How many min masons were you running?
I think we had 8 masons on the wall. It was 40 foot high and I don't know, approximately 90 foot long, 100 foot long.
Yeah, that's just curious.
Okay. I think the real power is these conversations that you're having right now. Love it. All right. Was there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up? We've got some good minds.
I got an open question for the group. What are the instances or the scenarios that prevent you from using mules on stair towers or elevator shafts?
I think the biggest obstacle on that would be just being able to access it. I mean, pretty much when you do that, like you're doing the center and stuff, you might as well plan on having a crane with it. But I mean, the production outweighs what the crane costs for us.
I agree.
I will say it was hard to get that initial leap of faith, though, because it's not necessarily intuitive, but it's you guys both picked up on that very quickly.
Any others want to weigh in on that?
Crane's intimidating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I guess some of the others, like 32s, are relatively new in the market. I mean, I think Lidl, I don't know if they've done a 32-inch block.
Well, I can just say for our market, because we cover DC and Baltimore, a crane is not a cheap expense for us in cost comparison to labor. So if you're looking at DC, you know, you're looking at a crane that's like $5,000 a day at minimum, because they
That's
have.
about what we're
Is that what
looking
you're
at
paying?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, also where you're at, as we're not as tight a city as you are, I imagine it's kind of hard to get a crane in and get it set up down there. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that's one of the feedback that we get is that just the cost of the crane, you know, we have, again, a lot of Fracco users. So, and just the difficulty of Fracco, I didn't know I hadn't seen the Fracco layout. I'll have to get that with Dan, from Dan, but, just the general issue of our Fracco scaffolding and weight issues are pretty much the primary reasons. So, not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying that's our feedback. So,
like I said, we'd like to use the cranes, you know, when we can. It's just worth the cost. But again, we're not in a packed in city like you guys are.
It's interesting though that it's not the dollar value. When we first heard, when you mentioned 5,000, that's about what you're paying in Colorado? Pretty close?
See, our crane company, they'll charge us by the hour, and I don't know if they'll do that for you guys out there or not. So, I mean, we've worked with this crane company for 30 some years, but you know, we'll tell them about what we're gonna, you know, like a half a day or something. And I mean, we don't mess around. We get it set and then get the crane out of there. But you know, generally I'm paying for about a half a day's worth of crane, just getting it set up and stuff. So, but you know, different areas too. I don't know how they work the cranes and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's about the same in Wisconsin too, and the way we look at it is, yeah, you're paying that extra money for the crane, but you're also doing that shaft with less manpower and being more efficient with it. So it pretty much pays for that crane up front already.
Well, I mean,
But
go ahead. Sorry.
No, the space is a big deal though. You got to have the space to do it.
Right.
I mean, if you can bring a crane in and save 2 laborers, you almost paid for it right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think one of the points here is none of these setups is going to work in every situation. You know, you're always going to run into something else, but you can mix and match. I mean, I think the important thing is to know what the options are.
So sorry, Mike. If you don't mind me asking, about how long does it take you to build a tower with the two mules versus having like 4 mules on the outside?
Honestly, with the 2 mules inside, I'm running a lighter crew, and I mean, I'm seeing very little drop in production numbers that way.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question. How tall are we talking and stuff like that?
Right.
You know, I haven't noticed. Put it this way, I haven't noticed enough at dropping to where a general contractor's saying I'm behind or anything.
Okay.
I mean, but also the key to this whole thing is getting the guys that want to use that mule and be productive with them. Because I don't know if you guys, the older ones, once they finally accept it and start using it, they love it. But it's like pulling teeth and listening to them grumble, and they don't want to, and they want to go build leads down the wall and run from it and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once you can get them to understand it and you work, the biggest thing I had to do if somebody's new on the mules is I got to spend a day or two just working with them and showing them what they can do and how much easier it is on themselves. And once they get to that point, then it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just getting past that first hurdle of,
Well,
you know.
we're bricklayers. We're Neanderthals. We don't like change.
Hey, I didn't say it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
grew
that's going to
up
be
around a
that's going to
family
be one of our
bricklayers.
fun. Yeah. That's going to be a future topic we're going to go after is,
Yeah.
you know, adoption and that. And I'm really looking forward to that, having a good, frank discussion about it because.
One thing I have noticed is I got a 17-year-old that's working during the summer out here legally, and he's picking those mules up like it took me forever to do it. He's instantly picked them up, and I think we're probably going to have Mike train them a little bit. But the younger generation picks up on them fast.
Yeah, we had the same thing. I had we were doing a demo for a mason, and his foreman, who just is a young foreman, he's 23, but he's a spitfire. He's like, "Oh, what's this?" And like, I was like, whichever button's which, and then he just like didn't even need us to show him. He just did it, and then was zooming around like he'd been using it for 2 years already, and I was like, impressive. I can't even get the older guys to like even come near it. They're afraid they're gonna break it.
Exactly.
So,
no, I had the 17-year-old Thursday's first day on the job, and we were having a little bit of trouble with mules, and I was busy somewhere else, and he was trying to troubleshoot it, and he jumped right in on it. Totally impressed.
Wow. That's cool. That initiative is very hard to find nowadays.
Yes, it is.
But,
all right. Well, good discussion. And I just heard a rumor that John L. Estra joined us. And he's not gonna admit to it. All right. Okay. And I wanted to end with this. This is getting to be kind of our mantra, and it's humbling for us. I mean, we're making all this equipment. We think it's going to change things. And I think every day we're realizing more and more that it's not the tool that's going to do it. It's really how you use it. And I love this saying because I think it does sum it up. It's not the mules. It's you guys. And that sounds like motherhood and apple pie, but it's not. What do you do with it? So,
yeah.
Scott, do you want anything to wrap up? I mean,
no, I mean, I think that, the last thing I throw out there is just we'd love to get feedback on this. So, I mean, hey, feel free to pipe in now if you got any questions that we didn't cover. Again, I think the big question in our mind is, what are the things that prevent you from using mules on more stair towers? What are the learnings that we can take forward? What are the things that we need to continue to develop and improve upon, whether it's training or actual physical, equipment? We want to know these things. So feel free to pipe in now, or we will be following up with, a little survey. This is the first one of what we hope will be many to come. So we'd love to get feedback how we can get better at this process, how we can make it more valuable for you and your teams. Whether it's yourself or whether it's even others from your team that you want to invite in. We want this to be engaging and really value added for you. So we will continue to be learning and improving on this overall process. So, either feedback is welcome now, or we can, we'll follow up afterwards and would appreciate any feedback along the way. So.
Mike, was anybody keeping minutes of the meeting? I missed most of it. And,
yeah, we do. We do.
We have a recording that I think we can circulate to this crew, right?
Yeah, we'll keep it internal. We will definitely do that, John.
Yeah. We're going to post that.
Well, I'm just so appreciated that you're calling in from a fishing boat. I just cannot. I'm actually humbled by that.
We caught our limit so quickly. I've got 6 pounds of walleye in the cooler, and I'm on my way.
Okay, well now I've gone from humble to jealous and envious.
The next time if you're in Detroit the next couple of weeks, we'll have a walleye cookout. We'll invite you to partake.
All right, love it.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Any other last thoughts, questions, comments?
All right.
Yeah. Well,
I guess we will consider this a wrap on our first foreman training. And like Scott said, we will be sending out a survey and a copy of the recording here